Greetings and salutations, test takers. This is the Series 7 Guru, aka Dean Tenney, coming to you from my off-grid, undisclosed location studio with our wingman, the always welcome VIP guest, Brian Lee, managing member, Test Geek Exam Prep LLC. The Test Geek himself is with us. So if you have any kind of a question, it's helpful, not necessary, but helpful. If you tell us what series exam you're taking, where you're joining us from, just fellowship reasons. But we're primarily here to help you with content. So if you do have content, it helps Brian and I if you tell us what exam you're taking, followed by your question. We can sometimes figure it out, but the way they test things are different. And Laura, congratulations on passing your Series 10. What a slog. So, it's helpful if we know Laura's taking a 10 because that's a much different beast or dragon to be slayed than some other exams, for example, right? The best free supplement to your paid study materials is my YouTube channel. We're coming up on 5 million views, 40,000 subscribers. The way the channel is organized is by series playlists. So poor Laura with her Series 10, we have a Series 9, 10 playlist. SIE, we have, I think, 3 or 4. They're in suggested watch order, and the videos in the playlist are suggested watch order. There's a lot of videos. There's over 1,100 videos and 2,000 hours of content. If you have a particular thing like tips, listen, Brian and I aren't going to give you a hard time tonight, but how many times, Brian, do we get a question that's been asked and answered 10 times? And if you put that like parody into the channel search bar or tips or whatever it happens to be, inverted yield curve, magically all the content will appear for that. So if you're looking for a particular topic, do that. Now, if you're looking for a paid supplement. Now, Brian and I are very clear that we are supplements. And we are not primary study materials. Brian, I keep getting people who ask, can I just buy Brian's stuff and pass the exam? I said, well, you might, but why would you risk your career on such a thing? We want you to buy Kaplan or STC or, those are our favorites, Kaplan, but some kind of a study or vendor. If you want a paid supplement, and I highly recommend it, you can get a Kaplan Q Bank for the Series 7, for example, with my 15% discount at like $55. Has a performance tracker, 3,600 plus questions. I think it's a great investment. And if you want somebody who really does a good job of distillation, because, sometimes you get those books and boy, they can be pretty intimidating. The best distiller I know is Brian Lee. His video course takes you through everything on the test. Here's more importantly, nothing that isn't on the test. So there's nothing in his videos, courses that you shouldn't do it. Brian has been kind enough to give our viewers a 20% discount on his content, which is Guru 20, all in on Brian's video courses, his PDF, his practice final. I think you're looking at a little over $100. So $160. If you have the resources, now is the time to invest in yourself. If you're looking to book tutoring or get a class, you can go to deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. That is my booking page. Everything on the YouTube channel is free. Let me say again, everything on my channel is free. There's no coffee cups to sell you, no t-shirts, no hats, no channel memberships. The booking page is a little bit of a flip. That booking page, there's only a couple things that are free. One of them is this evening. Every other Tuesday, we do a free live stream Zoom overtime session where I have a virtual whiteboard, not Brian's old-fashioned whiteboard, but a virtual whiteboard. I cap it at 15. We're capped out tonight. But if you want to join us every other Tuesday, you can go there. That's free. We also have free paid office hours every other Wednesday for paid students. And so this is a great value. If you, for example, join me tomorrow for my every other Wednesday evening class, so one Wednesday it's office hour, next is class. Tomorrow I'm doing partnerships, and it's $35. And that unlocks the office hour. And if you happen to be the only one in the office hour, well, then now it's you and I for an hour, and that's a $250 value. Also, when we do our drawing, that's what you win. I know I owe Marcel and Isaac the old-fashioned coaching call with a topic of their choice, but that's no longer what we draw. What you're drawing for is a free class, partnerships, for example, and access to that office hour. So, okay, do we have any more housekeeping here? We have some communities. We have Baby Brokers doing hat tricks on Facebook. We just crossed on that 600 members. Woo! So join us over there if you're into Facebook. We have Reddit communities. We have R Series 6 for Series 6, R Series 7. That's for both the SIE exam and Series 7. We have R Series 66. That's for 63, 65, 66. And we have R Series 24, Laura. That's for 9, 10s, and 24s. So we have this available as a podcast on YouTube. And I think that takes care of the housekeeping. All right. So let's see what's going on in the comments. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, let me get rid of that banner there. Okay. So first thing, Laura, we ring the bell for testing victories. Boy, on a Series 10, Brian, that's a double ring. That's a double ring. You know? I think that thing is such a slog.
And a cocktail in Las Vegas.
There you go. 65 next week. All right. So, well, we just talked about the 10. I hate to be negative, melanated marketer, but Brian and I think the 65 for some candidates, test takers, can be one of the hardest exams because there's a lot of content there. So what I'm going to do, melanated marketer, is I'm going to link in the video description. If you're new, any videos I reference, I put in the video description after this, live stream is over. And I will link to a podcast that Brian and I did on the 65. And check that out. I think that's a good way to get started. If you're starting one of these exams, usually if you go to the playlist, as I told you, they're in suggested watch order. If you go to 65 or 66, the first playlist is a podcast, which really kind of tells you what it looks like start to finish. If it was a book, we think you should read the book cover to cover. I think our podcasts are kind of a version of that, cover to cover, what kind of content you're going to encounter. Hera, we got another 65 in the house. Lady Brill, good evening. Thanks you to those supplements. You're welcome, lady. You're Lady Brill. We love it. Can you help explain why long-term bonds selling at a discount would increase most in price if interest rates decline? Well, here's how I would do it. I would start with the reverse. It's very much more likely, Leela, we're going to ask you on the test, which of the following bonds is most volatile? Volatile, long and low, right? You go the longest maturity and the lowest coupon. So we should definitely know that if rates go up, and I've got a bond paying 6, and brand new bonds of similar credit quality are paying 8, nobody's going to give me par for that. They're going to give me a discount. Now, if we agree, Lilo, that if interest rates go up, the bonds with the most volatility are long-term lowest coupon, well, then the opposite would be true, right? If interest rates come down, same thing, volatility, that'll be reflected again in the bond with the longest term and the lowest coupon. So for right now, Lilo, the Fed has been saying, excuse me, that they're going to be lowering interest rates. And what you might want to consider doing is buying a long-term zero to lock in that return. Right, those zeros are going to go up as interest rates come down, much more so than bonds with coupons. Brian, you want to give a shot at that one?
No, you hit pretty much right on the head. Depending on what test, Series 7. Yeah. We're not really going to have to describe or understand why that's the case. Yeah. And I'm trying to be respectful to all. I just don't want to say, hey, who cares? Just remember long term's more volatile than short term.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, that's really as deep as you really.
You know what I say, Brian, and if you've been watching me for a while, I always say if anybody, Lilo, asks you about economics, finance, or investments, and you want to sound smart, you should say, Lilo, it has a lot to do with interest rates. If you just shut up, you sound good. If people say, what about them? You say they fluctuate. They say, is that good news or bad news? You say, it depends. Now, if you want to spice it up, you can say, I'm watching the Fed. I'm seeing what the Fed is going to do. The Fed is in charge of monetary policy. Interest rates is a tool of the Fed, seeing if they're going to bring us in for that mythical soft landing, right? So, I'm watching the yield curve, Leo. You can add some of that in there. A yield curve has kind of been inverted. Now it's flat, and now it's back to normal. So again, I'm with Brian. It should be, Brian, would you go as far to say, is with the teeter-totter and seesaw, this should be an aim and shoot point and click question.
It really should be. But I think I know where the source of this question really comes from.
Vendors.
Exactly. How'd you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All those practice questions, they take the deep dive.
Yeah.
They want to see how.
This comes up a lot too, Brian. I tell people over and over, you're not going to have to calculate yield to maturity.
Right.
And then I'll have every once in a while a test taker says, Dean, you told me I didn't have to calculate yield to maturity or yield to call, and here it is. And I say, really? Look at that question again. Are they really asking you to calculate yield to maturity, yield to call? I bet if you calculate current yield,
that's right,
and the teeter-totter, you'll be able to reverse engineer that answer without doing that math.
That's right.
Tampa, well, Harold, I hope you're okay. All you people joining us from that, what is it, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee? Oh, my God.
Wow.
When Mother Nature does her thing. Woo! Crazy. All right. Woo! Kudos, investment advisor representative in the house. Now, Anna, thanks for joining us. Always good for morale. I don't know why you wouldn't want to take Brian and I's word for things that are testable. But if you ask politely, maybe Anna will tell you her experience was. Be careful. Don't read too much into other people's draw of the exam, because every draw is different. And Brian and I are wishing for all of you a dream draw. Everything you study shows up, and you go, I don't know what the big deal was. But you got to be prepared to take down even those face of death draws. So while it might be helpful to ask somebody else about their experience, be careful you don't put too much into that. Been successfully licensed since July. Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate referrals. What Lindsay has made our channel number one. We're number one in watch hours. Can you believe this, Brian? We have over 1,100,000 watch hours. People have spent over 1 million hours on the channel. We're coming up, Lindsay, on 5 million views. And I have the most real subscribers. I don't buy subscribers. So we're number one in all those areas. And what has made us number one, Lindsay, is referrals like you and the contributions we make to testing victories. And so I really appreciate those referrals. Also, our channel is safe for work and home. So you don't have to worry about putting on a headset before you listen to the channel. And a lot of corporate trainers, Brian, know that you and I are legit. And so they will let people watch us at work, where, that might not be true for some other folks. Series 6, we are wishing you luck. We're wishing you luck. So if there's anything we can help you out, just put it in there. Brian, I think if you did a good job on your SIE, it'll pay big, big dividends on your Series 6. Pay attention to variable annuities. Pay attention to customer accounts, and retail communication would be my recommendation. Hi, Dean and Brian. I passed 66. Oh, well, thank you so much. And love referrals. Noel, thank you so much for referrals and staying subscribed. We have people who come with us. Brian and I, we don't take it personal. We know, Noel, that we come into your life for a reason and a season. The reason is to pass your exams. The season is how long that takes. And I don't take it personally, Noel, when people do unsubscribe and tell me, Dean, thanks. So when people like yourself stay subscribed, I appreciate it. And it's always good for morale, too. So again, Noel, thanks for popping in, because Anna, thanks for popping in, because, when people are out there on their own and they come to join us, it's nice they get to see some victorious test takers in the house. Might give some people a morale boost is what I would think. Just sent me an email the other day. I'm filling out the outline for 65, but you can't find all the. I did receive that, Julie. I haven't responded. You don't. If it's not there, it's not there. It should be in the playlist. I didn't explicate the entire outline. So the things that are not explicated from the content outline or test specifications are found in standalone videos. For example, Brian was kind enough to collaborate us with a video called Definitions of Registrations and Persons. That video is so good, I don't feel compelled to reinvent the wheel and go to that study test specifications and try and improve on what Brian did in that thing. I have a registration of broker-dealer, a coaching call replay. So that's what you would do, is you just see where it's missing and then put that in the channel search bar, and you'll find either a coaching call, a tutoring replay, or a class replay with what you think is at this point missing content. So that's what I would do. I will respond to your email as well, and it'll be the response I just gave you. But make sure you're using the playlist. So remember, if you're taking 65 or 66, there are two separate playlists. There's 3 playlists for each of those. On 65, there's a playlist with test specifications and lectures. There's a playlist, a podcast episode that I told you with Brian and I did together. And then there's practice test and practice questions. And the same for the 66. They're separate playlists. 66, again, podcast series, lectures, and then practice test and practice questions. Hello, Dean and Brian. I'm not so sure if this is too specific for Series 7.
I like you.
You like Scotty, or you like me?
No, I like it's not too specific.
Okay. Company buys equipment using cash. Are both working capital and shareholder equity affected? So let's start with the first thing. If you buy equipment for cash, your working capital is certainly affected, right? Because you have traded a current asset for a long-term asset. I always think, as Caddy, you should think about your own personal balance sheet. So I'm building my off-grid location. Here we go, Ascotty. I just bought equipment. I bought a $6,000 generator. Does that affect Dean's net worth? It doesn't. I had $6,000 in cash, and now I have a $6,000 generator. I've simply changed a current asset to a long-term asset. My working capital has decreased. So working capital goes down. Net worth is unaffected. Brian, your thoughts on that?
Got it. Yeah. It doesn't require equities or debt securities.
Yeah, I would tell you, Brian and I'll defer to Brian. If he wants to correct me, I'll stand corrected. But, the channel, I had the channel up and running for 3 years before I did any balance sheet content, because I just don't think, particularly on 7, that it's a material difference in passing or not. I mean, yes, you'll get a couple balance sheets. A 66, much more bigger deal, 65. But Scotty, I will link. I have a couple different videos on balance sheets. I have fundamental analysis. I have a couple balance sheets, tutor and replays. So put in balance sheet, and in the search bar, and a lot of stuff will come up. But I will, in the video description, link to a lecture. 71, that's cool. I like it, Michael. That's okay. I'll take that. If I were your corporate trainer, I'm not, but if I were your corporate trainer and I went backstage and pulled up your, backstage with my backstage access, and I saw that you took your first test today with 71, I'd probably yank you in and tell you did a good job. What do you think, Brian? You feel pretty good about a 71 first time?
Absolutely. Nice job.
Yeah,
First time.
Perfect.
Now, what's our next step, Dean?
Remediation.
Performance tracker. Find those weak
Yeah,
areas.
You listen, Michael,
Push that up a little bit more.
Right? Yeah, don't do more than one practice test a day because it's worthless. I had a guy bragging about doing 4. I go, it's a waste.
Ouch.
It's a waste. You do one, you do remediation. If I were your corporate trainer, you're telling me a week, I would say, Michael, okay, I love that. I just went backstage, or you told me, or I found out, and I bring you into my office. I say, Michael, how many more practice test scores am I going to receive from you in this week? If you tell me like 14, I'm going to say no. You say 3, 4, that's fine. You don't have to do one every day. The final mark, Michael, and I would just put this out there again, if you don't have Brian's practice test, let's be very clear what I'm about to say. For about $20, you can buy his practice test for the 66, which is spot on, but it's just the PDF and the answer key and rationale. So every once in a while, somebody takes us up on that. And then they tell Brian, oh, I got what's the practice test? I go, yeah, because if you want all in, it's $100. But I think that's a really great investment for $20. And what I use that for, Michael, is I tell people, hey, when you buy Brian's PDF and the videos, put his practice test away, please. Put that somewhere where you haven't seen it. And let's make that be our last mark. And so I would want you to take the Test Geek last mark practice test couple days before test time. So that would be my recommendation. So is it, I think it's like 20 something dollars, Brian? Is that right?
$19.95, $24. And then of course the guru discount.
By the way, if you don't have the resources, I get it when you're starting a career, but you don't have the resources. Brian has been kind enough to give us access to his content on the channel. And you can go watch me do his practice test, hit pause, come up with whatever answer you think it is, hit play, and then hear me talk shit about Brian. No, I'm joking. Sometimes I, oh, look at that Brian, he jerked, but he got us. And then if you have questions about his content, feel free to reach out to him. Daniel, that really hurt my heart. It really hurt my heart. People really do struggle. I mean, there are some people who just really, for whatever reason, struggle in the 66. I'm sure we can do that. I'm going to give Brian his whiteboard. Looks like he's getting ready to do his whiteboard. I think you asked me, Daniel, about the 65. This major distinction on 65 as a backup, and I've had many people do this successfully, Daniel, immediately suffer the misfortune of a miss on the 66, whether it's your second time or third time. Take a 63, 65 year backup and running. So, but there's just more economics. I'm going to first tell you what I would say. Please. You know, debt to equity is about solvency and flexibility financially. It's a choice. Leverage isn't inherently evil. But if I asked again, we had Ascoti or Arizona. I don't know what Ascoti is, Arizona. But he was asking us balance sheets. Again, Daniel, I would ask you to think about your own personal situation. You know, if I say, how did you capitalize your house? What I'm asking you is how much equity did you put in the house and how much did you borrow? And if you know, let's say we both own tract homes in the same neighborhood, and Brian and I both paid 500 grand, and I say I paid cash, and Brian said he put down $5 grand, right? So his home is very leveraged, and he's going to have either make a lot of money or lose a lot of money. Price to book is about value investing. And Daniel, if you put price to book in the search bar, you will see me go over price to book on a balance sheet. It's in that fundamental analysis lecture replay that I'm going to put in the video description. Brian, what would you say about those two things?
You know, the debt to equity and the liquidity ratios, if you've been through the 65, 66, you should know those, right? The current ratio, the quick ratio, also known the acid test. Notice there's kind of a little theme running through here. When we analyze a company before we buy their bonds or their stocks, we want to find out how leveraged, how much debt does the company have? And are they able to pay off their short-term obligations? That's really what it's all about. Leverage and the ability to pay their short-term obligations. That's why these ratios are so important. The debt to equity ratio, right? How leveraged, how much have they borrowed? I can use a perfect example of this. I don't know. I don't want to get political and any of that stuff, but I know someone who bought a casino in Atlantic City, $750 million with 15% junk bonds. Casinos don't make 15% net profit. In other words, they were so highly leveraged that most analysts knew it was going to fail, and it eventually did and went bankrupt and those sorts of things. So when we analyze company, we're looking for leverage or their ability to pay their short-term obligations.
And it could be a conscious choice, Daniel, to be leveraged. Could be a conscious decision. That means you're going to make money twice as fast. You're going to lose money twice as fast. I would know that when we talk about corporations, there's no such thing as a corporation that hasn't capitalized itself through the issuance of common stock. Right. And that could be it. That would be a very simple capital structure. But most corporations might capitalize themselves with both equity and debt. And then again, as Brian said, the debt becomes a potential problem. Brian, use Toys R Us. Is it hard to sell toys in competition with Walmart and Amazon? Absolutely. Yeah. But it doesn't help that you have $10 billion of debt on your balance sheet, which means you got to sell a lot more toys. Same thing Brian said about gambling, right? I mean, to service $10 billion in debt, that's a lot of, choo-choo trains or whatever it is kids buy nowadays, right? Legos.
That's right. And that's really what they're looking for with those balance sheets is the analysis of these companies.
Fundamental analysis. So to say you're a fundamentalist does not mean you're a member of the religious right. It means that you're somebody who looks at either the economy, the industry, then the stock, or the stock, the industry, the economy, either bottom up or top down. And that's a value kind of a system. So price to book, by the way, Daniel, is about valuation. You know, we have all kinds of different valuations. We have discounted cash flow, price to book, book value. The one I think recently, Daniel, that struck me was banks that trade pretty close to price to book. For example, JP Morgan trades at about 1.4 times price to book. Bank of America about 1.2. Citigroup, 60% price to book. Wow. That means that Citigroup is worth more dead, Daniel, than it is alive, right? And the guy who's a value investor was buying Citigroup, saying if this new CEO, I think she's relatively new, if she can just get it to 80% of book, that would be a huge improvement in the stock price. So again, margin of safety. Noelle, there you go, Brian. She's recommending my videos in your 66 packet. Yeah, Brian's questions are pretty spot on. So the other thing I tell people, Brian, when they get your PDF is not only to do it as our last mark, but I also tell them the night before to read your questions and your right answers. And the morning of to read the questions and the right answers for a couple of reasons, Noel. You might see something that's pretty similar, but it also, I think it helps get you in the flow of 66. I don't think that's a natural circadian rhythm, to go down there and do a NASA exam. So anything we can do to kind of get ourselves in the flow would be expected. Still dragging for my birthday weekend. Okay, let's got it. You got it, Marcel. Congratulations. Mine was last week too. So I always tell mom hello on your behalf. Failed the 65. Yuck. I felt very good and confident. I like that. Exam FX sucks. You got to get rid of Exam FX. You've got to supplement. So there you go. You just purchased the premium course. Great. I think that's exactly what I would recommend. Start over. I don't know, Jeff, and you don't put it in the chat if you don't want your business on the street, but I'd be interested to know how close you came. And, because if you weren't close, I would just pretend it never happened. Start over with Kaplan. But if you were close, I would probably do some debrief with myself, an intellectual debrief, and see where I can find the points I need. So, that's great, Arrow. That's great. 79, love it. Answered 3,738 questions. Woo! I will ring the bell for that. I believe in doing lots of questions. Brian doesn't think you need to do as many as I think you need to do, but I love that. Speaks to me. It speaks to me. You failed it by the first time. Well, that will get your attention, won't it? I know, Brian, if you've had this. Here, one of my favorite students over the last, 18, 24 months is a guy named Nico. And you can see Nico and I do practice tests together. And what a 180 he did. We took that gut punch. And then he said, you know what? I'm not having that happen again. And he buckled down. And to see the dramatic improvement in people who have missed their mark and then just kick ass on that second attempt is just is fantastic. So I'm sure you'll get it. Second attempt, I failed. I have one more attempt. I go to need to pass the third attempt. Yeah. The third attempt is very serious because if you don't pass the third attempt, you got a 6-month wait. Now, I think, Jeff, yeah, you're doing a 65. So my little shortcut thing won't work for you. So I'm imagining, Jeff, you have a 6 and a 63, and now you're getting a 65. 2 years ago, do you think it's outdated? Well, Ashley, I don't think it's worth messing with. Why have something on your mind that doesn't necessarily need to be on your mind? I'm not comfortable telling you to use an old book. I don't think it would be harmful. A T+1 has changed. There's been some things that changed 6 to 73. But, suck it up, I guess, and buy a new book is what I would say. What do you think, Brian, using old study materials?
Especially the QBank, right? You got to get that updated QBank. The QBank is a lot easier for these publishers to update than it is for the textbooks.
Yeah, you know what?
It changes, every 6 months. And it's hard for them to spend $42 million on, 10 million new textbooks. But their test questions are easily updated. So you got to get
QBank. Yeah, get the Kaplan QBank. The other thing I was going to say, Ashley, and again, not knowing more about background, the thing that aggravates me, and maybe this is what happened, I don't know. But Brian, we know there's a lot of places where they just hand the new person the old books and say, here you go.
Good luck.
Take the 7 on Friday. I've had consecutive 76s. That's great. 90 on options. Any advice? Rinse and repeat, Jayla. There's nothing I think that we need to tell you to do that you haven't been doing if you're getting those kind of scores. So you just need to stick to the landing. Just stick to the landing, right? You're welcome. You are welcome. It's a lot of free content for sure. Sometimes when I feel like saying, well, what do you expect for free? Where can I find the next video that goes over the 65 outline and ends with the book price? I've scoured the channel, but I can't find it. I think, Julie, I answered this. I said, if you're looking through the 65 test specifications and my explication of that, and you can't find the next one, that means it exists in lecture form with either myself or Brian using PowerPoints or not. That's where you would find that. So that's where you do it. I just told you I'm going to link to fundamental analysis lecture. So you would find it in lecture form rather than me continuing down that thing. So I got a couple ones there, a couple segments I didn't feel compelled to do. I've said this already earlier because I already have that content in a different form, whether it's Brian's class he did first in the evening, whether it's my version of a lecture or a coaching replay. So I just thought it was redundant. There you go, Caleb. You'll sound smart. And say, what about them? You say they fluctuate. And remember, they say, is that good news or bad news? You say, it depends. Can you tell me more? Then you can say, I'm watching the Fed. I'm watching the Fed. I'm watching the yield curve. Pass the SIE. Woo-hoo. Yeah, absolutely. I think once you're in these testing modes, go for it. You know, we call our Facebook group Baby Brokers Doing Hat Tricks. Baby brokers is a term of endearment for rookies in the securities industry. And hat trick are 3 successes in a short time frame. And I think once you've got a testing victory, you should just roll. You know, if I'm going to be doing a 7, a 66. Now, if you don't have sponsorship for your 7, then maybe you have to do the 66 before the 7, but roll. We had Laura did her 10. I don't know how long her break it's been for her 10, but sometimes we get people like Laura who are doing SIE 7, 66, 9, and 10, all in the case of 6 months. And to be honest with you, this sounds weird, but I think that's easier, SD, than it is for the people who are doing 9 and 10 after they've been in the business 20 years. Because they're coming back and like, oh, you know, trying to get back into the feel of it. Muni bonds being tax exempt. Well, they are, NEMA, so I don't know what would be confusing about that. But generally speaking, they're subject to state and local. No, they are not. So let's be very clear. I say, NEMA, for me to do a really good job for you over time, I need to know a lot about you. What is your tax bracket? And he says, Dean, I'm in a 35% tax bracket. I said, NEMA, is that both federal and state? He said, yeah, Dean, I'm a resident of California, and my combined tax bracket is 35%. I said, well, NEMA, what I'm going to recommend for you is that we buy you some municipal bonds from California or political subdivisions of California. Because in that circumstance, NEMA, the federal government would like to tax you, but can't. The state of California could, but chooses not to. Now, if you buy Clark County, Nevada bonds, California, NEMA, as a resident of California, will tax you. You say, Dean, are there any bonds that no matter where I live in the country, they are tax-free? I said, yes, territories. We can geographically diversify you through like Puerto Rican bonds. Now, the only component of a muni bond that is tax-free is the coupon. If you buy a muni bond low and you sell it high, that is taxable, right? So they are subject to state and local taxes. If you are a resident of New York and you buy a New Jersey bond, NEMA, New York then will tax you. You know, if you're a New York resident, you need to make New York, right? If you're a resident of New Jersey, you buy a New York bond, New Jersey can and will tax you. That's why this is a huge suitability question. Where do you live so I can determine what kind of bond you want to buy? Brian has his board up and running. So there you go, Brian.
Yeah, it's the interest, the coupon interest payments are tax exempt, both federal and state, if you are a resident of that state. But I don't see too many investors buying New Jersey bonds if they live in New York. You know, that's not going to help them that much. But the only thing you got to be careful is just like Dean said, is the capital gains are always taxable. There are no exemptions on capital gains to anything, really, right? It's just the uniqueness about municipals that their interest is exempt from both federal and state. And the most suitable, of course, are those in the highest tax brackets, because they would have to pay the most tax on it. So that's why we recommend munis primarily to higher tax bracket individuals. It's quite simple for a Series 7.
That's right. Munis are for rich people. The other thing I would add to that is if you're taking a Series 6, I started out NEMA as a retail broker, and my go-to move was selling people Franklin's tax-free funds. Franklin Templeton is huge in the tax-free municipal bond marketplace. And he's retired now, but the portfolio manager for Franklin was a guy named Raphael Constance. And Raphael was on the dais being interviewed. And there were 3 people, including himself, who were managing muni bond portfolios. And the other 2 gentlemen on the dais said that they are buying muni bonds low because they're undervalued. And they're also getting some capital gain. So they're getting some good total return besides the tax-free income. What I love, Brian, is when they got to Raphael, he said, I try and minimize capital gains distributions to my shareholders. So it sounds boring. I agree with both of these other gentlemen that there are undervalued muni bonds in the marketplace. I too buy them, but I don't sell them. I just hold them to maturity because I'm trying to be as tax efficient as I can on behalf of our Franklin Templeton shareholders, and those capital gains distributions to them would be taxable. So I thought, wow, okay, somebody who sticks to what they said they were going to do, right? So, hi, Dan Brian. I've taken 10 simulated exams. Wow. Past 2 weeks. Wow, 80, 87. Woo. Brian, I was emailing about a one-on-one tutoring need before taking an exam, or should I take it? I don't know if you're asking, Brian, you need tutoring? I don't think you do, but Brian,
I don't think you do. I think good.
Those courses are great. I don't need to take any money out of Brian's pocket, but it looks like you're doing pretty good.
And when in this situation, Dean, I think we both come across situations like this. Someone comes in and they're scoring in the 80s or something. Yeah. I really don't want to take your money. You're doing fine. You're doing well. You take the test in when? Next week?
Yeah.
I don't know. But you're doing great. I don't think you need tutoring. I really don't.
It's always a joy, to have people doing the work. So if you're putting in the work, I think Brian and I agree. We're blessed, by the way. So, we don't need to take any money from anybody. That being said, though, when people do the work, I think tutoring should be used to plug gaps. It doesn't look like you have a gap. If there's something that you have a gap and you can't get it and you're reading the book, by all means, get some help. As we said, it's not a time to be frugal. So whether it's tutoring or supplements or whatever you need to, make sure you got every arrow in your quiver that you can have. So, but I recommend tutoring as a supplement, not as something that you should be doing as a routine part of your study effort. Got the pass. Woo! All right. Love it.
Ring that bell.
666, another victorious test taker in the house. Followed by the scores, Brian.
That's right.
Yeah. I don't know. It's damn, it just hurts, doesn't it? I mean, I'd almost, when I miss an exam, I'd rather miss it by big marks than by 1 point. Just purchased Brian's course. Love it. Double down on the Q Bank. I love it.
Good.
We're here to support you. I will link to my podcast episode in the video description. It's called Failed. Is It Over? Spoiler alert. The answer is no. And it has my 5 recommendations about how to respond to that misfortune. So I will link that in the video description. I've had people, Brian, I need to make it clear. I don't immediately, when we're done with this thing, go to my YouTube channel and start updating things. So, be patient. Within 24 hours, those links will be on that replay. Taking the 7th on Thursday afternoon. I love it. I got passing scores. There you go. Great. 63, 67. Well, yeah, I would prefer to see 70s, but you might be trying too hard. Let it go. Let it come to you. Be the test. So, a little bit of nervousness is okay in anxiety. Just don't make it be debilitating. Continue to work. If you're going Thursday, this is Tuesday. You pretty much need to wrap up your study effort. And the most important, here's my big thing for you. The most important thing between now and Thursday is to be confident in the execution of your study plan, be confident in yourself, and most importantly, be confident in your answers on Thursday afternoon. That is going to have the biggest impact on you making your mark, and I think you're going to. So that's what you should be doing. That's 1-2 days. Be careful. You might be working too hard. It's possible. You need enough brain power to take you over the mark. So I would say work your ass off tomorrow. If you want to do a practice test tomorrow, work your ass off. Wednesday. Oh, tomorrow's Wednesday. My bad. Maybe Wednesday morning, work your ass off. Wednesday afternoon, I like to smoke a cigar, drink a scotch, whatever, put you in the right frame of mind. Maybe it's a glass of wine. I have a guy who likes to fish. He goes, throws his pole out there, whatever it is. Brian, you have any recommendations for Nima?
No, just review your notes. Review those last sims. Review the wrong answers.
If you're using STC, The STC has crunch time facts. You can review that. Kaplan has what's called a quick sheet. Brian has, what do you call your version? Class notes, Brian?
Quick notes, class notes.
Well, yeah. So if you have that, something like that, that's maybe something to do tomorrow. A quick municipal bond rundown. This is a live stream Q&A. It is not free tutoring. It's not a free class, Jake. In these kind of settings, you need to have a more specific question than, can you tell me how the universe works? The answer is no. Now, Brian is a science major, geology major. He might be able to tell you how the world works. Me, not so much. I'm teasing a little bit, Jake. What I would suggest is I'll link in the video description to a Muni Bond class replay. It's about an hour. But the biggest thing I would tell you, Jake, is I would take a sheet of paper and fold it in half. And on one side, Jake, of that paper, write all the terms associated with GO bonds. That would be voter approval, taxes, ad valorem taxes, collection ratio, whatever. On the other side, all the terms associated with revenue bonds, feasibility study, no voter approval, user fees, net revenue pledge. Because a big part of the Muni questions are distinguishing between GOs and Munis. They love to say all the following are true of GOs except, right, or which of the following is true of GO, or all the following true of revenue except, or which of the following is true of revenue. Or they just love to torment you with the distinctions between GOs and revenues. So that would be what I would tell you to do for your rundown on Muni bonds. I'd also like to tell you to make sure you can do tax and tax-free equivalent yields. So Jake, if you get a taxable yield, you can say, okay, well, after you pay your taxes, this is what you're left with, and that would be the Muni equivalent. Or if you get a Muni yield, because, we really can't compare apples to oranges. So when I'm confronted with a suitability question about whether Jake should buy a Muni or corporate, I need to know the tax bracket, and that's math I would be prepared to do. I would add, I guess I'm doing the rundown I said I wasn't going to do. I'd also be comfortable with underwriting of Munis. I have a whole lecture on underwriting Munis. I'll link that. Make sure you're comfortable with selling groups, syndicate members, the components of the spread, that kind of thing. Anything you want to add to that, Brian?
No, you got it, man.
Okay. I would, one more point. There's about 20 questions on Munis. So the three biggest areas in function 3 are Munis, options, and mutual funds. Those are target-rich environments. So sometimes people are telling me what they're studying and they're spending hours on. I go, why? That's typically partnerships or margin. I'm like, why are you spending all that time? It's only a couple of questions. Pass the set 60 years. Woo! Well, thank you so much, Stephen. I appreciate it. I think we're both, we provide resources. Like I say, Brian and I are just another couple more arrows in your quiver as you try and get this thing done, make your mark. Brian's supplemental videos and practice tests were spot on. I passed my 66 last Monday, first try. Thanks to Brian and Dean. It helped weed out all the fluff. There you go. It hits the important. I like it, Rachel. As we say, distillation.
As we say, turning mashed potatoes into premium vodka.
That's right. That $50 bottle of vodka that was a bunch of fermented potatoes.
Thank you, Rachel.
Oh, no, Evan, that hurts. Oh, that hurts. Man, that hurts. Okay, well, we'll see, I guess. I think you should still do it. Let me, time for Dean's tough love. I was a little concerned with you, Evan, because of the nature of the questions you were asking us in the live streams.
Yes.
It seemed like a lot of your questions were, kind of rabbit hole questions. Like I think last week you were asking us as a right 30 to 90 days and as a warrant 5 to 8 years. And I think you might have been, I would say when we get back to this, let's make sure we stay on the broad avenues and highways of the SIE and not go down any alleys or cul-de-sacs on it. So that would be my recommendation, just based on the input that we had. And then you're welcome to hang out with us. There's other exams you can take without sponsorship. I don't know if you're in a sponsorship situation or not, but Evan, you might want to consider, let's see what you think about this, Brian. You've done a lot of work. I don't know how close you came to passing, but the 65 requires no sponsorship. And maybe you can get a testing victory there in the next month or two and at least have that as something to hang your hat on. What do you think, Brian, about taking the 65?
I like it. You got a 6-month wait if you're going to still plan on being in the financial industry.
And that content, Evan, on the 65 will pay dividends on when you circle back on your SIE.
That's right.
I mean, you won't get all the regs, but you'll get a lot of the same investment stuff. No license. If I pass the 65, well, only if you work for a fee-based investment advisor, Jeff. So the only circumstance in which a 65 as a standalone works is if you're working for a fee-based only investment advisor. I think you're like Fisher Investments. They just charge fees. They don't charge transactions. Everybody over there, Jeff, has 65s. They don't have 6s. They don't have 7s. So that's the key. The key is, yes, it will only work for a fee-based investment advisor. Other than that, it won't work. So if you're working at a place where they have a broker-dealer affiliate and they have an investment advisory firm, you'd have to stay on the investment advisory side. Are you having a Zoom group meeting? I am, but you have to be registered for it. It's already capped out. So we take a 15-minute break, and then I reopen a virtual classroom for Zoom. You can register for that at deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. I do it every other Tuesday. So we are doing that tonight. And then next Tuesday we are not. And the following Tuesday we are. So does ERISA protect the employee from the advisor of the plan or the employer of the plan? Does ERISA protect the employee? The answer is yes, period, full stop. And it doesn't matter whether they're being protected from the advisor of the plan or the employer. Both of them can be held accountable for violations of ERISA. So Daniel, time for you, same discussion I had with Evan. Time for tough love. So Daniel, same thing. I know we're going to be talking later on. And I get nervous about the nature of the questions you ask. Because again, the nature of the questions are kind of like Evan's. It seems like, once again, we're not on the broad avenues and highways of the information, that you're finding these kind of off ramps where you're going into a rabbit hole of some sort. So ERISA does protect employees, period, full stop. In the context of a particular question, send that to me so I can look at it. I don't know if you have a test prep vendor who's making a testable distinction about the advisor or the employer, but the employers are the one who are subject to ERISA. Because, Daniel, we had two major crises in private pensions. ERISA was passed in 1974. One was the Teamsters kept lending their pension money to the mob. And we didn't think that was a good thing. And, Jimmy Hoffa turned down a loan request. We haven't seen him since. The other major crisis is we had Studebaker. Studebaker had a defined benefit plan, and all kinds of retirees of Studebaker would go to the mailbox once a month and their check would be there. And then once a month they went to the mailbox, the check wasn't there. So as a result of those two situations, behind every act, there's the story. We in 74 said, pass the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, which says that employers are fiduciaries as it relates to those pension plans. So if I had to pick between one or the other, I'd say the employer. Ryan, your thought?
I heard a question a while ago. I'm talking decade ago. And it was asking about the fiduciary responsibility of the advisor, right? Because the advisor, right? And so who is the fiduciary responsibility of the advisor to? Is it to the employee or the employer? I've heard that sort of situation, but not in the context of ERISA.
Yeah, there you go. Well, let's be clear. Investment advisors, broker-dealers aren't fiduciaries. Right. Investment advisors are. That's very decibel, right? Should I keep doing simulation, or does Brian have a 65 practice? That's spot on. Well, I'll say this for Brian. I think it's spot on. And we just, I think, covered this, Arrow. If you send Brian, I think I have Brian. Hold on, Brian.
Yeah.
I think you don't need Brian to buy it, but I think you can.
That's the video. That's
there we
the
go.
video.
There we go. Did you send Brian an email? Brian@testgeekexamprep.com.
Please do.
Yeah, and he can get you the PDF, as we said, of his practice exam, which is spot on, for I think about $20. Don't quote me on it. I think it's $20-something.
Something like that.
And I don't like the word spot on here. I'll just use the word I like the word. I believe that Brian's practice exams have the strongest correlation to the actual exam. So that's how I express that.
Let's be clear. Nobody can duplicate the real test.
Yeah.
Nobody does. What we're
And
looking for is a correlated score.
Right on.
One that is close to the score that you'll end up with.
There you go.
That's what we're trying to do.
I like it. That's exactly right. All right, where are we at? We did that one already. There we go. Wow. Yeah. Well, the 65. I love it, Daniel. Yeah, I don't think you have a knowledge deficit problem, my friend. I don't. If I did, I would tell you. I don't. So yeah, I would want you to. If you can get that 63, 65, my friend, you're up and running. And here's my other thing. We can be aggressive because you have 3 at bats on the 65 too, right? You have 3 at bats for the 65. You have 3 at bats on the 63. You have that same 30-day wait, but I've had many people adapt and overcome by doing a 63, 65 almost immediately after missing the mark on the 66. Exactly. So this is a fixable thing. And so, yes, I recommend that. I do recommend that. Using a Kaplan Q-Bank as a supplement to Achievable. Should I base my test scores off 140 or 130? Well, I wouldn't count Jay on Achievable. Let me just say this thing I said earlier. Achievable has the worst correlation to the actual exam. I just told you Brian has the best correlation. Achievable has the worst. I wouldn't put any faith in an Achievable practice test score. I think their content is okay. I wouldn't say fantastic, great. Brandon Rith is no longer with them. He's their subject matter expert. I'm uncomfortable that nobody knows why he's not associated with them anymore. I don't know who's doing updates over there. I am obviously not an Achievable fan. But my biggest complaint or thing I don't like about Achievable is that the lack of correlation from Achievable practice test to the actual exam. So the answer is Kaplan Q-Bank for sure. The Kaplan Q-Bank has a much stronger correlation than Achievable. All is well, Isaac. All is well. I meant to send you an email today. We got to get you on the calendar. So I know that's pending and we're going to do it. Hey guys, longtime subscriber. Well, thank you, Duncan. Both were crucial in my license exam, maybe off topic. What are your thoughts on the CFA? I think it's a waste of time and resources. It used to be a very popular thing to do, and it depends on where you're employed. But I know all kinds of people who spent lots of time, lots of resources on a CFA, and now we're tutoring Series 7 for $75 an hour. I'm joking, but so Duncan, I'm not a big fan. I think the CFP is much more something that you can use in the normal context of the business. Don't get me wrong. If you're at BlackRock and you're trading ETFs or something, maybe your CFA looks good. But I'm not a big fan. Brian, what do you think about CFAs?
Exactly. It depends on what your role is in the industry. The CFA, to me, is the pinnacle. If you're going to be constructing portfolios and looking at leverages and debt to equity and price to book and liquidity ratios, then the CFA might be helpful. But yeah. The CFP, I think, is something that a retail client can relate to far more than the CFA.
Yeah. So I'm not a big fan.
If you're constructing portfolios, then the CFA might help.
It used to be have a lot of niche. I've been reading stories where they're struggling at CFA just to get people to sign up and take the exams because a lot of people are just saying, why, Yeah. 60 on STC for 65. What do you suggest? How do you close the gap? Well, you keep working. That's one thing. You got to keep working. And then I would supplement. Go to the 65 playlist on my channel. There's all kinds of practice tests. I got one premiering Thursday where you can literally watch me and the student do the 65 together. So why don't you watch one of those and see if that doesn't knock your score up a little bit, right? Because what we do is the student and I do the question, we talk about it, we riff on it. It's an investment on your time because, the one that's premiering Thursday is 3.5 hours of this guy and I doing a 65 practice test.
I wish the textbook publishers would publicize this a little bit more. But again, the performance trackers are the best things you can do. Remember, the practice finals are just meant to evaluate where are
Give
we.
you an inventory. That's right. Intellectual inventory.
Right? And then the performance tracker identifies, well, why did we only get a 69? Well, you're deficient in this unit, and this unit, and this unit. And there's where you go, is to fill in those gaps, is look for the performance tracker. And I believe STC has one as well.
Yeah, I do too. Somebody tells me they do.
Yeah.
I actually have STC's content. I probably should go find it. I'm taking my third attempt. Ooh, 8 a.m. All right. Well, we're with you in spirit. We're sending you positive energy. If all of a sudden you just go blank, you go, oh my God, I can't remember anything. Don't panic. I want you to go, and Brian and I will astro project everything back to you. Might take us a minute, but we'll take care of you. You've been scoring 72 to 87. I think you're right where you need to be, buddy.
You got
right
it.
where you need to be. So, as I've said before, the biggest recommendation I can make when you come down this back nine, you got a day or two, is be confident in the execution of your study plan. Be confident in yourself. Most importantly, be confident in your answers on Thursday. Don't change answers. Brian has a saying I love. Brian says,
You want my closing?
is that? We'll save it for the close. You got to stick around for the
My
close.
closing bit. Yeah. It's my closing bit.
There you go. SIE fell with a 68. Well, you just need to find some points, Gucci. I like that. So, Brian, next time we go out, Brian has inspired me when we go to casinos to get my bling on. So I brought my watches. Have you ever seen my watch box, Brian, with all my Rolexes and Panerys? And I've got lots of fine watches. Anyways, Brian has inspired me to get my bling up when I'm going to the casino. And so Gucci, I went to get some new glasses. I got these bright red glasses, Brian. I say Gucci.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sure you found some points. We'd like a score. It's kind of hard for us to say anything. All we know is your retaking on the 29th. You failed with a 68. Maybe you could give us a little more information, like how you doing on practice tests and that kind of thing.
Same thing with the actual exam, right? They give you a score sheet.
That's
find
right.
the area that's deficient. Find the outline for the exam and do an inventory of that area.
Yeah, I told you my podcast episode I'm linking, Gucci, with 5 recommendations. That's the first one. Go print the content outline.
Yeah.
By the way, you can also watch me go through the content outline. So I literally go through the entire content outline on SIE and tell you what's tested. Read the book. Watch the videos. I like it. Bought Brian's course. That's a playlist for success there for sure. There you go. Teeter totter seesaw. Love it. I have every series, Anna. I have your series exam in 60 minutes. I'll link to that playlist because I have a 60-minute video for all of them. Hard to believe how popular those have been. You're not going to learn the 65 in an hour, but again, it's kind of like Brian's practice test. Remember, I told you I like you to read it the night before, morning of, to get your flow going. Yeah. And that's what those videos are for. So, night before, morning of, you're in your car, watch the 65 for 60 minutes, and it kind of gets you in the flow. My SIE version of that, Brian, can you believe it has 180,000 views? Wow. And by the way, check out the content too. It's good morale, the comments and all the victorious test takers. Sometimes in the comment section, they also leave debrief. So right on.
That's the recipe right there.
That is the recipe.
How to pass, especially those NASA exams.
Yeah, right? You know what, Brian, I'm with you. That's the recipe. So we wouldn't expect that Anna's post ends with that I missed the mark. Right? We would expect as we're reading this, okay. Ryan, thank you so much. We love super chats. Thank you so much. Ryan, I apologize. I've been trying to go through the chat first and put people who give us super chats at the top because I think people who give us super chats should get their questions answered quickest. Thanks, guys. We'll give it a shot. A little nervous for this one, do the volume, but hoping we'll do, circle back with your testing victory for sure.
Please do.
Could you give me tips on economics? I do. I have a link to a video on economics. I have one I'm going to post here next day or two on inverted yield curves, but I have 2. I have an economics lecture I'll link to in the video description, and I have an economics class replay that I will link. So tips on economics in terms of right now, you should definitely, on 65, know monetary policy is controlled by the Fed. You should definitely know the tools of the Fed, interest rates, how they use interest rates for price stability. You should definitely know fiscal policy is covered by, controlled by Congress and the president. And fiscal policy, you should know is government spending and taxation. You should definitely know about the business cycle. You should definitely know that 2 calendar quarters of declining GDP is a recession. 6 calendar quarters of declining GDP is a depression. Mainly big items. I would know an inverted yield curve is when short-term rates are higher than long-term rates. I would know it's a negative leading economic indicator. So there's a couple nuggets for you, but I will link to an economic lecture. Anything else? Any nuggets you want to toss in there, Brian?
Exports and imports.
Oh, there you go. Balance of trade. Brian's right. Definitely have a handle on debits or credits and how the value of the dollar affects the balance of trade. So, Nino, I am a U.S. importer. I import, Swiss watches, sapphires from Thailand, cigars from Cuba. So for me, a strong dollar is wonderful because I can buy more stuff. However, I contribute to the trade deficit. So a strong dollar is not good for U.S. exporters. It's good for U.S. importers. And a weak dollar would be good for U.S. exporters because they can get a little more bang for their buck, so to speak. But I will link. Brian's absolutely right. That's testable too. Do you think STC? I absolutely do. STC is a reputable vendor, and I think there's plenty of content there for you to pass your exams. Doesn't mean we don't believe in our supplements, but yeah, STC is fine. Day 2 series exam 20. I love it. Should I outsource? I don't call it outsourcing. I call it supplementing. I don't know, Marcus.
Yeah, I think that's what it's. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and the answer to that question is yes. That's what we're here for.
Free supplement, paid supplement. Hello. Well, I think I answered. I don't know what the hello again for is. Hey, but thanks for joining us from. Oh, look at this, Brian. Is that a? Wow, we got a 1999 Nauer Mausa. Nauer, thank you. We got a $20 1999 super chat. Woohoo!
Wow. And I have to tell you, Dean, before we go tonight,
yeah,
I just did the best quarter I've done in my 7 years of doing this.
Crazy.
Top quarter.
Yeah, crazy. I had a guy who was telling me, Brian, that he was trying to recruit me to do something, and he said, Dean, you could make rock star money. I said, well, I got bad news for you. I was a rock star, and I have made rock star money, and I always joke that I'm kind of in retirement, and this is ice cream money. But I too, Brian, have got to the point where it is a little more than ice cream money that we're making. So. Yes. Okay, looks like it's time for the drawing. Let's see. That was a real exam question. Well, there you go, Daniel. It sounds like you had to face a death draw for sure. I'm just seeing if there's any killer here that we need to do. I'll pay you whatever. Well, Harrow, you can pay me. It's $250 an hour. I don't sell 10 minutes. If you go to the booking page, you can book an hour, or you can talk to me for free tonight in the live stream or the other Tuesday live stream, or you can sign up for the partnership class tomorrow. And after class, I hang around and answer any questions anybody has. So if you want me to bring up the performance tracker on Kaplan to show you how to work it, that's fine too. I just want to let you know, pass. Woohoo! Going for that CFA. All right. Okay, Brian, you're in charge of our thing. Oh, you're welcome, McLean. I got an email from you, and I haven't had a chance to respond to that yet. Last week we're instrument. All right, Mausa. Nauer. I love that name. I hope I'm not slandering it too badly. All right, let's go get the drawing our Wheel of Fortune here. Where is our Wheel of Fortune? And let me go back to see what Brian has chosen for our word. Autumn. So you got to put that into the chat exactly how Brian has it there, or the thing will not pick you up. So let me put that in there. AUTU. Is it autumn or is it fall? I thought it was fall.
It's the same thing.
Oh, is it? Oh, there you go. I'm always learning new things from Brian.
They're synonyms.
I'm always learning new things from Brian.
There's only 4 seasons, Dean.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I thought, well, where the hell is autumn at? All right, let me go get the Wheel of Fortune up.
You know what? That just means we need to go to the Hawthorne for some cocktails.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Let me get rid of the comment there. If you win, remember what you win is access to the free office hour. You don't need my intervention to get the free office hour. To get the free office hour, I'm trying to get rid of that. To get the free office hour, all you have to do is go on there and, register. And then you also win a free class. That's every other Wednesday. Tomorrow is partnerships, or you can register for any other class you'd like. That you'll need me to send me an email, Dean at Series 7 or Dean at GuruExamPrep.com, because that's behind a paywall. And I'll have to give you the link. Daniel, if you're still here, did you get the link for tonight? I did send you the link for tonight. So, okay, looks like we're ready for the drawing. Here we go. Lady Brill. All right, Lady Brill, you got a free off. Join me for the office hour.
There you
and you need a link for partnerships or any other course that you see on my booking page. let me know, and I'll send you the link for that as well. All right, let's go back to Brian and I. Remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. Brian, you say?
I know sometimes it's difficult, but you got to learn to keep it simple. Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
There it is. All right, everybody. We'll see you next Tuesday. Some of you I'll see in 15 minutes from now in our live stream overtime session. Bye-bye.